Hi, my name is Adriana Staglietto, and this is my argument against 13-year-old teenagers becoming participants in voting. Would you rely on the wisdom of a 13-year-old to vote on who the next president is, or what legislation and/or propositions are going to be renewed or passed? Are you comfortable with the idea that someone who hasn't ever held a job or paid taxes will be helping to determine how many taxes you will be forced to pay? What is your confidence level in a 13-year-old understanding what government economics is all about? Heck, we have a House and a Senate full of college diploma holding adults who can't even figure it out. Most teenagers are not well enough educated on public issues to be able to make an informed decision on which way to vote. Many teenagers don't even know how the voting system works. It's a complicated process involving state representatives and an electoral college made up of citizens who are well over the age of 13. Are these middle-aged politicians to be expected to relate to the concerns of 13-year-olds, or is that the job of their parents? Age doesn't necessarily indicate wisdom, but you can bet that lack of age definitely suggests a lack of life experience. Have you ever heard anyone use the term double digits on your 10th birthday? This phrase implies a rite of passage, but there is really no accomplishment behind those numbers. It is simply a mathematical figure. A 10-year-old does not have much more life experience than a 9-year-old. We may consider a 13-year-old to be more qualified to babysit a 9-year-old than a 10-year-old is. But this doesn't mean a 13-year-old has enough life experience to influence legislation that affects the way adults are forced to live. The early teenage years is the time to experiment with responsibility. Things like a driver's permit, a health club membership, a part-time minimum wage job, a puppy. These are the experiences in learning your path into adulthood. When life's lessons of commitment, failure, and consequence are learned, then a person only begins to understand what the privilege of voting really entails. 13-year-olds are unaware of the implications of their decisions, and they cannot be held accountable by law for any ramifications of their choices. If a 17-year-old cannot be sent to prison and tried as an adult for murder, then why should a 13-year-old be able to determine whether that law is justified? 13-year-olds are not even permitted to buy a pack of cigarettes by law because they are considered too immature to make decisions regarding their own health. So what possible contribution can they be expected to make in regards to the regulation of dangerous substances? If the law has determined that 13-year-olds are not mature enough to view R-rated movies, then it stands to reason that they are not mature enough to handle voting on issues involving abortion, gun control, euthanasia, drug laws, and pornography. The right to vote helps mold the way a society chooses to live. And state laws vary enough to form very different lifestyles and cultures. People of age of 18 can determine what state they choose to live in because they have the opportunity to support themselves through employment. But 13-year-olds are restricted by labor laws and must remain under the guardianship of their parents. It would be foolish to give anyone a vote to determine the laws of a state when the laws of the land itself already prohibits them from making choices as to where they can live according to those laws. Thank you.